Tonight, a story of immense global significance is unfolding before our very eyes. The world is watching, and the stakes could not be higher. In a move that has sent shockwaves through the international community, China has officially halted all operations involving the American aviation giant Boeing. This is not just a business dispute, it's a calculated act of economic retaliation, a bold maneuver in the ongoing power struggle between two of the world's largest economies. The decision grounds a huge portion of Boeing's future in the world's fastest-growing aviation market, effectively shutting the door on billions in potential revenue. The consequences could be devastating, not just for Boeing, but for the entire U.S. manufacturing sector. Thousands of jobs, livelihoods, and entire communities could be at risk. For years, Boeing symbolized cooperation and mutual benefit between the U.S. and China. Now, that bridge is collapsing, threatening decades of progress and partnership. The fallout threatens global supply chains, rattles stock markets, and puts countless jobs in jeopardy, not just in America, but around the world. For Boeing, losing access to China is a catastrophic blow. The country was projected to buy thousands of new aircraft over the next 2 decades, a multi-trillion-dollar market that now hangs in the balance. For the U.S., this is a direct challenge to its manufacturing prowess and economic leadership on the global stage, raising questions about the future of American industry. Beijing's move signals it's willing to use economic leverage as a weapon in its geopolitical struggles, escalating tensions and uncertainty in international relations. The immediate crisis for Boeing could be just the beginning of a much larger U.S. manufacturing meltdown, with ripple effects that could last for years. Tonight, we break down what this means for you, for our country, and for the world. The story is far from over, and its impact will be felt by all of us. To truly grasp today's crisis and the forces shaping it, we must look back at the long and complex history of the U.S.-China relationship. For decades, engagement was the guiding strategy. Leaders believed that trade would open China's markets and integrate it into the global economy, fostering cooperation and mutual growth. Boeing stood at the heart of this vision, becoming a key American export to China since the 1970s and symbolizing the promise of economic partnership. Each sale of a Boeing jet was more than just a business deal. It was a victory for U.S. engineering, a testament to American innovation, and a step toward a more interconnected world. But as China's economy boomed and its cities transformed, the country evolved into a formidable competitor, not just a lucrative customer. Tensions inevitably rose over trade imbalances, intellectual property theft, and restricted market access, straining the relationship. Despite these disputes, the aviation sector, and Boeing in particular, seemed insulated, considered too big and too vital to fail. Boeing is America's largest exporter, supporting a vast network of thousands of suppliers and providing hundreds of thousands of high-skilled jobs across the country. The U.S. government has long championed Boeing, recognizing its strategic importance for national security, economic strength, and global influence. Yet China has not hesitated to use massive aircraft orders as leverage, shifting to Airbus to send pointed political messages and pressure the U.S. for years. Few believed China would ever halt Boeing operations entirely, given the deep economic ties and mutual benefits. The prevailing assumption was one of mutual dependence. Each side needed the other to thrive. But today, that belief has been shattered, replaced by uncertainty and anxiety. The U.S.-China trade relationship has reached a breaking point, with consequences that will ripple across industries and economies worldwide. This crisis is the result of escalating tensions over the past year. The trigger new U.S. trade policies targeting Chinese tech and aerospace sectors. Washington's restrictions aim to protect national security and curb China's ambitions. Beijing saw this as a direct attack and warned of firm and forceful countermeasures. Now, China's Civil Aviation Administration has suspended all Boeing deliveries and imposed strict reviews on existing fleets. The official reason, safety and compliance; the real motive, retaliation. Boeing's completion center in Jiaoshan has ceased all activity. Billions in jets sit undelivered. Chinese airlines are halting payments and turning to Airbus. The message from Beijing: Boeing is no longer welcome. The U.S.-China trade war has entered a dangerous new phase. The numbers reveal the scale of the crisis. China accounted for a quarter of Boeing's commercial orders. Boeing projected China would need over 8,500 new planes in 20 years, worth $1.5 trillion. Losing this market is an existential threat to Boeing's future. In 2024, Boeing delivered over 150 aircraft to China. In 2025, that number drops to 0. The loss will create a massive hole in U.S. export figures and pressure the dollar. Boeing's stock plummeted over 20%, wiping out tens of billions in value. Suppliers like Spirit AeroSystems and GE Aviation also saw their stocks tumble. Airbus now has a clear path to dominate the Chinese market. This could permanently shift the balance of power in global aviation. The impact ripples far beyond Boeing's headquarters. Boeing's supply chain includes over 12,000 U.S. companies, many small businesses. With production lines cut, suppliers face sudden order drops and layoffs. Cities like Wichita, Kansas, home to Spirit AeroSystems, are hit hard. Reduced hours and layoffs threaten the livelihoods of working families. The social consequences are severe. Jobs at Boeing suppliers have long been a ticket to the middle class. Now, mass layoffs create fear and uncertainty in manufacturing towns. Local economies suffer as workers cut spending, hurting small businesses. The crisis exposes a vulnerability over-reliance on a single trading partner. It's a wake-up call about economic security and the risks of globalization. The U.S. must reconsider its dependence on potentially hostile markets. This event will spark a national conversation about rebuilding domestic manufacturing. The Boeing meltdown could be a turning point for American industry. The stakes for workers and communities are enormous. The political stakes are enormous. The White House faces pressure to respond, show strength, but avoid deeper economic pain. The administration walks a diplomatic tightrope, with little room for error. Domestically, the blame game is on. Opposition blames aggressive trade policies. The administration defends its stance as necessary for long-term security. This crisis will force a reassessment of U.S. trade policy toward China. Bipartisan calls for decoupling and reshoring supply chains will grow. Reshoring may help in the long run, but it will be costly and disruptive. Internationally, allies are caught in the middle, relying on both U.S. and Chinese trade. The U.S. will push allies to take a tougher stance. Beijing will counter with its own influence. This strains alliances and complicates global diplomacy. The Boeing crisis is not just a U.S.-China issue, it's a global test. The world is watching how Washington and Beijing navigate this standoff. The outcome will shape international relations for years to come. To understand the strategy, we spoke with Dr. Evelyn Reed, a geopolitical analyst. She calls Beijing's move asymmetric economic warfare, targeting a key U.S. vulnerability with precision. This isn't random. It's a calculated effort to inflict maximum pain on Washington. Boeing is a symbol of American industrial might. By grounding it, China signals U.S. dominance is no longer absolute. The move also boosts China's own aerospace champion, COMAC. Dr. Reed is skeptical of Beijing's safety claims, calling the timing politically motivated. Using safety as a pretext for retaliation sets a dangerous precedent and erodes trust. This could spark tit-for-tat scrutiny of Chinese products by U.S. regulators. A quick resolution is unlikely. Both sides are dug in. Washington can't appear weak. Beijing can't back down. We're likely in for a prolonged standoff. The best hope quiet back-channel negotiations. But the risk of a broader economic conflict is very real. The world is watching this high-stakes chess match unfold. Beyond politics and numbers, the human cost is profound. Every day behind the headlines and statistics, real people are living with the consequences of decisions made far above their heads. In Everett, Washington, Boeing workers face fear and uncertainty. The mood on the factory floor is tense, with every conversation shadowed by rumors of layoffs and cutbacks. David Chen, a 30-year veteran, says, "China was our future. Now it's like a switch has been flipped off." For workers like David, the sudden change feels personal, a lifetime of dedication now clouded by doubt. Local businesses brace for layoffs. Half of a nearby diner's customers are Boeing workers. The ripple effect spreads quickly, touching every corner of the community. "If they start laying people off, I don't know how we'll survive," says the owner. For small business owners, the threat isn't just about profits. It's about keeping the doors open and supporting their families. Across the country, communities in Boeing's supply chain echo this anxiety. From machinists to truck drivers, thousands depend on the stability of these jobs. The hardest part is the uncertainty. No one knows if they'll have a job next month. Every paycheck could be the last, and every day brings new rumors. Workers feel like pawns in a geopolitical chess game. They watch the news, hoping for answers, but often find only more questions. "We just want to build good planes," says another worker. "It feels like all our hard work is being thrown away." The pride in their craft is now mixed with frustration and helplessness. The crisis exposes the vulnerability of American workers in a globalized economy. Their livelihoods can be threatened by forces far beyond their control. Decisions made far away can upend lives in an instant. The gap between boardrooms and break rooms has never felt wider. As the nation debates trade policy, these voices remind us of the real-world consequences. For every policy shift, there are families waiting, hoping, and worrying about what comes next. These are not just numbers, they're people caught in the crossfire. Their stories are a powerful reminder that behind every economic headline, there are lives forever changed. We are at a crossroads. The grounding of Boeing in China marks a new, dangerous phase in US-China competition. Boeing, its workers, and suppliers face a bleak immediate future. The company must find ways to replace its largest market, no easy task. Washington must balance strength and diplomacy to avoid a wider trade war. The decisions made now will shape America's economic future. This crisis exposes the risks of over-reliance on a single foreign market. It will accelerate efforts to reshore manufacturing and diversify supply chains. The future of American industry depends on learning from Boeing's predicament. Ultimately, this story is still being written. The actions of leaders, corporations, and workers will shape the final chapter. The path chosen now will define America's place in the world for generations.